Hello, good evening. Hello, good evening. Hello.
Good evening,
hello.
madam.
Right, okay. I'm audible, right, okay. Now I want a small kind of recap on what I did last time in educational psychology. What did I do last? Nilakshi, last time Nilakshi only actually told me. If you're connected, Nilakshi, others, any one of you? Yeah, any one of you? What did I do last time? Where did I finish? Please, I'm clueless now.
Ma'am, you did classical conditioning theory.
Is that so? I'm only at classical conditioning.
Yes, ma'am. You
I
did
started learning. I started learning. The unit learning. Am I right?
unit learning. Yeah.
Yeah, in the unit learning, I discussed the Woolfolk definition of learning.
Yes.
And then behavioral theories of learning, classical conditioning.
Yes.
Then operant conditioning, I did not discuss.
Yes.
Right. Now I got it. Thank you very much. Okay. Because
Yeah,
you know, a lot of psychology lectures, different batches. So everything is mixed up. I keep notes, and today I don't have it with me. And turning pages rather than turning pages, getting you to tell me is easier. I felt. Okay, don't misunderstand anyway. That we are in the unit learning, and what we discussed so far, and what we are going to discuss in this unit. I'm going to actually now do start the lesson. So give me a second. I'm opening my lecture notes. Right. Make notes. I think that you are also making notes, no? Give me a second. Apex education, psychology, right? E-learning. Right. So learning one. Wait, it's opening. Give me a second. A lot of time it's taking. Okay. Right. Okay. Can you see the slides I'm sharing?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Okay. Right. So we actually started the unit learning. Before that, we have done the introduction to psychology, the first session. And then we actually looked at lifespan development, developmental psychology, unit 2. In that, what is lifespan development, factors affecting lifespan development, nature, nurture, maturity, learning, and then aspects of lifespan development, cognitive, social, emotional, language, etc. And then theories of lifespan development, Piaget's theory of cognitive development, Sigmund Freud's psychosexual development, Erik Erikson's psychosocial development, Kohlberg's moral development, and Bronfenbrenner's ecological systems theory. And then we discuss cognition. Under cognition, we discuss what is cognition, the definitions, and then cognitive process, sensation, perception, memory, and forgetting. And then we started learning. Am I right? Yes or no?
Yes, madam.
Yeah. Now in learning, we did it last time, started it last time, and we discussed Woolfolk's definition of learning by looking at how many knots, NOTS, by looking at how many knots, NOTS, 4 knots, right? What is learning and how many knots? 4 knots, to understand what learning is all about. And then we looked at behavioral theories of learning. So basic, what are the two behavioral theories of learning we have to discuss? Classical condition, B.F. Skinner is from the behavioral school of thought. Our behavior or our learning, in this particular learning theories, our behavior is our learning. So our learning is a result of our interaction with the environment, everything not within us. We interact with our environment, and accordingly we actually behave or we learn as their learning theories. And for behaviorism, learning is habit formation. You repeatedly do something and form habits. So these are termed as simple learning, right? Simple learning, because learning through repetition and forming habits. That is what behavioral learning theories looked at. Certain amount of learning happens this way as well. Okay. Then classical conditioning is one of the learning theories from the behavioral self, and operant conditioning is another theory from the behavioral school of thought. So we discussed classical conditioning. Learning is habit formation. Um, we learn because we are responding to our environment, and uh, dogs experiment. Uh, Unconditioned stimulus, conditioned stimulus, unconditioned stimulus, unconditioned response. Neutral stimulus, then conditioned stimulus and conditioned response. So how neutral stimulus is associated with the unconditioned stimulus, naturally occurring stimulus, in order to bring about new learning, the conditioned stimulus, which is termed as acquisition. That is what we discuss in uh, classical conditioning. And extinction, once the new learning or conditioned stimulus and response is formed, right? There is a possibility of gradual decrease and disappearance of the newly formed learning. That is termed as extinction. For example, the dogs actually learn to salivate to the sound of the bell. Initially, it was neutral and it was associated with the unconditioned stimulus, the food platter. And after some time, after repeating it, to salivate to the bell. But once the no more pairing or association is there, with the bell is there, they actually salivate, but they will continue it for some time, the new learning. But there is a possibility that gradually that they will decrease and this new learning can disappear. They will once again, they will not salivate to the sound of the bell. There, that threat is there. So even if you use classical conditioning in education setup, now you have a student who actually fears doing presentations. So that is a neutral stimulus. So as the teacher, you want to actually do something. So you decide on using classical conditioning. So you identifies an unconditioned stimulus for the child. Naturally, what he likes. So you see that the child likes English language a lot. So you combine or you associate neutral stimulus presentations with unconditioned stimulus, natural stimulus, English. and you get the child to do English language presentations over a long period of time repeatedly. Because of this association or the bonding of the neutral stimulus and the unconditioned stimulus, sometimes after, even there is no unconditioned stimulus, no more bonding association, the child will continue to actually like doing presentations, not only English, but mathematics, science, and other subjects as well. So that is the conditioned stimulus and conditioned response new learning. But there's a threat. After some time, there will be a gradual decrease in the liking to do presentations in other subjects. And finally, the child will actually dislike doing presentations once again. So we have to be mindful about this limitations in classical conditioning. And you know, the next behavioral theory we are going to discuss. What is it? B.F. Skinner's classical condition, operant conditioning. It has a solution for this extinction. You can stop extinction, gradual decrease and disappearance of the new learning or the conditioned stimulus by applying the concept of operant conditioning by B.F. Skinner. So today we are starting with operant conditioning by B.F. Skinner. Is it clear what we have done so far and now what we are going to start with? Is it clear?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, no problem. Then operant conditioning by B.F. Skinner. He is an American psychologist. He was or he is an American psychologist who belongs to the behavioral school of thought. So our learning is a result of our interaction with the environment. Learning is habit formation, or which is termed as simple learning. Right. They are the basic assumptions. But in operant conditioning, how does learning happen? If you take classical conditioning, learning happens through the association of bonding of neutral stimulus with the unconditioned stimulus. So in operant conditioning, how does learning happen? In operant conditioning, learning happens through rewards and punishment. Learning happens through rewards and punishment. Learning happens through rewards and punishment. Okay. So let's see. Now, in the classical conditioning, we had the dog story. And in operant conditioning, to discuss operant conditioning, we have a rat story. Rat story means the experiment done with rats by using rats by B.F. Skinner. We will first look at the rat story and then talk about the elements of operant conditioning. This is the study done, experiment done to formulate this theory. The experiment was done using rats. In one version, rats were put into a box and he terms it as the Skinner box. He calls it a Skinner box because his name is Skinner, right? So Skinner box experiment. So he puts rats into a box, and you know it's natural to rats. They don't stay at one place. They actually always run here and there. That's the very nature of rats. Okay. So once the rats were put into the Skinner box, rats started running here and there. Rats started running here and there. Then you know, accidentally, I repeat the word accidentally. That means without any intention. Okay. Accidentally, while they were running here and there, the rat stepped on a lever. The rat stepped on a lever accidentally with no intention. They were just running here and there, and accidentally they step on a lever. Then they are dropped in food pellets. They dropped in food pellets once they pressed or stepped on the lever. So later on, once it was repeatedly happening, accidentally stepping on the lever and they are getting food pellets. Rats learned press the lever to get food pellets. Rats purposely, intentionally press the lever to get food pellets. So they learned it. Okay, how did they learn it? Through the reward they got. Because they got food pellets now. Because of that, they actually learn once it's repeatedly happening to press the lever to get food pellets. That is one version of Skinner box. In another version of Skinner box, rats were put into a box. They were running here and there. That's very nature of the rats. With no intention, accidentally, they stepped on a lever. And then when they step on the lever accidentally, unintentionally, they got an electric shock this time. They got an electric shock this time. Then what happened? Once it happened repeatedly, rats learned not to step on the lever. Rats learned to avoid the lever. So that is actually punishment. When you are punished, it is not done. Okay. So using this experiment, because of the results of this experiment, this class operant conditioning theory was formulated. So accordingly to operant conditioning, how does learning happen? According to operant conditioning, how does learning happen? Please.
Through rewards and punishment.
Very good. Through rewards and punishment. So if learning happens through rewards and punishment, if learning happens through rewards and punishment, you can't actually just think of giving rewards and punishments and get the students to learn. It has to be done effectively. So the effective use of, to discuss the effective use of rewards and punishment to facilitate learning, the operant conditioning theory has some components proposed or has some elements proposed. They are components of operant conditioning for the purpose of using rewards and punishments effectively to facilitate learning. First one is types of reinforcement and punishments. Types of reinforcement and punishments. Second component is schedules of reinforcement. Schedules of reinforcement. So if learning happens through rewards and punishment, they should be effectively utilized. For the effective use of rewards and punishment, operant conditioning proposes two components to be discussed. First one, types of rewards and punishment. Second one, schedules of reinforcement. So we will first discuss types of rewards and punishment, and then we will discuss schedules of reinforcement. Is it clear so far?
Excuse me, ma'am. The second one, I didn't get the word. First one, types of
Yes.
rewards and
Schedules.
punishments.
Yeah, schedules or schedules of. Schedules or schedules.
Oh.
You can see the word here. Got it?
Okay, ma'am.
Right. Then we will first talk about the types of reinforcement and punishment. Types of reinforcement and punishment. Okay, the first component. B.F. Skinner talks about 4 types of reinforcement and punishment. How many types? 4 types. What are they? The 4 types are positive reinforcement, negative reinforcement, positive punishment, negative punishment. I repeat, the 4 types of rewards and punishments according to operant conditioning: positive reinforcement, negative reinforcement, positive punishment, negative punishment. So the teachers, in order to facilitate learning, can use 4 types of rewards and punishments. So we are now going to look at what do they mean, and what are some classroom examples for the 4 types. So we'll look at the first one, reinforcement, the 2 types, positive reinforcement and negative reinforcement. We are taking the first 2. They are the reinforcements, positive reinforcement and negative reinforcement. This is what you should keep in mind. If it is a reinforcement or a reward, if it is a reinforcement or a reward, they are always used with good behaviors, good learning. They're always used with good learning. So if it is reinforcement or rewards, they are always used with good learning. Okay, now? So if it is positive reinforcement, okay? Now I want to ask you, if it is good learning, you want to strengthen the good learning or you want to weaken the good learning? If reinforcements are used with good learning, you want the good learning to be strengthened or weakened? Common sense. හොඳ behavior එකක් හොඳ learning එකක් තියෙනවා නම් ඒක දුර්වල කරන්න ඕනද ශක්තිමත් කරන්න ඕනද?
ශක්තිමත් කරන්න ඕනේ.
අයන strengthened. එහෙනම් reinforcements are always used with good behaviors to be strengthened. Okay? හොඳ behavior එකක් තව strong කරන්න තමයි reinforcement පාවිච්චි කරන්නේ. Right. Positive නම් you are giving something to the performer. Negative now, you are removing something from the performer. I repeat, if it is positive, you are giving something to the performer. If it is negative, you are removing something from the performer. Now we'll look at an example. First, think of a good behavior to be strengthened in the classroom. Right. Students coming to school every day. It's a good behavior. So it should be strengthened. You can actually use positive reinforcement or negative reinforcement. If it is positive, you have to give something to the child. Now the good behavior to be strengthened is attendance, good attendance. So you want to reinforce the child to strengthen it, but it's positive. You are giving something to the child. What can you give the child? Maybe a red star for perfect attendance. Maybe a certificate for the perfect attendance. Something the student like. But if it is negative reinforcement, so reinforcements are always for the purpose of strengthening good behavior. But if it is negative, you remove something from the performer. So for the good behavior of perfect attendance, you want to strengthen it. So what you all should remove? Something that the student like or doesn't like as a reward. Please respond. Clear නැද්ද කිව්ව එක? කතා කරන්න ළමයි.
Oh man.
Clear නැද්ද?
Yes, madam.
Alright. කොතනද clear නැති එක කොටස? මුළු reinforcement types ඔක්කොම clear නැද්ද?
Last part, madam.
Last part. Now මම ආයි කියනවා. Then we are talking about the component of 4 types of rewards and punishments. 2 types of rewards and 2 types of punishment. Okay. Now we are looking in rewards, reinforcements. There are two types. So අපි මතක තියාගන්න reinforcement එකක්. Always we are using reinforcements to strengthen learning, strengthen the good behavior. Okay. Always reinforcements are applied to good behaviors to be strengthened. If it is positive reinforcement, always positive means you are applying, giving something to the performer. If it is negative, you are removing something from the performer. Now, in this situation, reinforcement, you are using it to strengthen good behavior of the student. We will think of a classroom example of good behavior. Perfect attendance, right? Now, it's a good behavior to be strengthened. You want to reinforce the child. If you are using positive reinforcement, you have to give something to the student. So you will give something that the student likes. Maybe a certificate, maybe a red star, maybe a praise, verbal praise, because students like them. So you are giving something as its positive reinforcement, but something the student likes. But you can use negative reinforcement as well. So reinforcements are used with good behaviors to be strengthened. Good behavior of perfect attendance. But if it is negative, you're removing something from the child. So to strengthen the good behavior, if you're removing something from the child, it should be something that the child likes or doesn't like. What? Huh? It should be something. Huh? Louder?
Something that the child likes.
අපට ඇහෙන්නේ නැදුව. හයියෙන් කියන්න.
It should be something that the child likes.
Now, if it is negative, you are removing something from the child. හැබැයි මේක reinforcement එකක්. ඒ කියන්නේ ළමයාගේ හොඳ learning එකක් තව ශක්තිමත් කරන්න යන්නේ. එහෙමනම් ඔයා ළමයාගෙන් ඉවත් කරන්න ඕනේ reward එකක් විදිහට ඉවත් කරන්න ඕනේ. ළමයා ආස දෙයක්ද ළමයා ආස නැති දෙයක්ද? Something like that the child likes or doesn't like that you have to remove as a reinforcement. Common sense.
Something that child likes.
වුණොත් ඒක දඩුවමක් නේ අයින් කරන එක. remove කරන එක ළමයාගෙන් අයින් කරනවා.
Dislike.
හොඳ behavior එකක් කරාම ඒක ළමයා කැමති දෙයක් අයින් කරොත් ඒක reward එකක් නෙමෙයි.
Dislike, madam.
එතකොට ඒක reward එකක් වෙනවා නේද? උදාහරණයක් now perfect attendance. It's the good behavior to be strengthened. So you are deciding on negative reinforcement. එහෙමනම් you have to remove something from the child that the child doesn't like. So ළමයා කැමති නෑ හවස after school ඉඳගෙන classroom cleaning කරන්න. Okay? So something that the child doesn't like staying after school to clean the classroom. So you decide, you're good, you're perfect attendance. So I want to reinforce you, reward you, but I'm using negative reinforcement to strengthen the good behavior of perfect attendance. I'm removing classroom cleaning after school from yours, something that you don't like. Is it clear now?
Yes, ma'am.
Then why do we have to use negative reinforcement? We can use only positive reinforcement. Why is these two types? Why are these two types as positive and negative? What do you think? What do you think? ඇයි මේ positive negative කියලා දෙකක් තියෙන්නේ? අවශ්‍ය නෑනේ. What do you think? I want to know what you're thinking. නිකන් හිතලා කියන්නේ ඇයි එහෙම දෙකක් තියෙනවද? Why not always positive reinforcement only? Why negative reinforcements also introduced to remove something that the child doesn't like as a reward? කියන බලන්න. Right or wrong, it doesn't matter, dear. Hmm?
හැම පැත්තෙම හොඳ
Right
නරක
or wrong, it
දෙකම
doesn't matter, but හොඳ නරක දෙකම. ඒ කියන්නේ
හැම එකෙම හොඳ නරක තියනවා වගේ මේකත් එහෙම two sides.
rather, yeah. ඔයා කියන එක මට තේරෙනවා, බලමු අපි. මෙන්න මෙහෙම දෙයක් හරිද? Why should we introduce not only positive reinforcement but negative reinforcement as well? හේතුව තමයි, otherwise your students will do something if there's only reinforcement available. You will create a reward culture. And in a reward culture, the beautiful life, the beautiful living, the selfless life is not there. You will do everything for the reward only. Once the reward is not there, you will stop doing that. That threat is there. That threat is there. And have you now, Yola, there are TESOL students as well. Have you ever read the proposal by Antal Shekhar? If not, Parastava, the Sinhala translation. Have you ever read? In that, right? It's about marriage. The two people are getting married. But it's for all rewards. They talk about status, they talk about wealth, they talk about property, but they never talk about love. They get married in the absence of love for all selfish reasons. The very marriage is a marriage of convenience. This is what happens in the reward culture. You motivate the child to do something if there's a reward only. No reward, no done. Nothing is done. Okay? So education should not promote such a culture. Education should promote a selfless culture. එහෙනම් අපිට පුළුවන් not always for a reward that you do something. Because of that, it's good if you can actually use some negative reinforcements as well, where you remove something that the child does not like as a reward. Okay, the child doesn't like staying after school, then you remove it from the child as a reward. Got it, or you didn't get that?
Yes, madam, we got it.
Okay. Now we are looking at the two types of punishment. The two types of punishment. Right. Then can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes,
All
madam.
right. Now we are looking at the two types of punishment. So reinforcement is always with good behaviors to be strengthened. Emanam punishments always are used with bad behaviors to be weakened. Okay, so punishments are applied to weaken bad behaviors, bad learning. Then there also you have the positive punishment and negative punishment. Positive, you have to give something to the child. Negative, you have to remove something for the child. So as a punishment for a bad behavior to be weakened, if you're giving something to the child, you should give something that the child likes or doesn't like. It's a punishment. If you're giving, you have to give something that the child doesn't like. Am I right? Otherwise, it will not be a punishment. Got it? Got
Yes,
it?
madam.
Hello? Yeah. Then if it is negative punishment, so bad learning to be weakened. Negative, you have to remove something from the child. If you're removing something from the child as a punishment, it has to be something that the child likes. You remove something that child likes as a punishment, right? So classroom example of positive punishment. First, we have to decide of the bad behavior to be weakened, right? The bad behavior is not doing homework. Not doing homework. You want to weaken it, that bad behavior. So you are using positive punishment. You're going to actually something that should be something that the
Madam,
like
can't hear.
the child doesn't weaken that is you. Yeah, can't hear. Is it okay now?
Now okay, madam.
Yeah. Now, if it is punishment, if it is positive punishment, you are giving something to the child as a punishment. So something that the child doesn't like. In the bad learning of not doing homework on regular basis, you want to weaken it. You're using positive punishment. You're going to give something that the child doesn't like. So the child doesn't like black stars. So for not doing homework, that bad behavior to be weakened, as a punishment, you give black stars to the child because the child doesn't like black stars. If it is negative punishment, negative punishments are used with bad behaviors or bad learning to be weakened. But if it is negative, you have to remove something from the child. So as a punishment, if you are removing something from the child, it has to be something that the child likes. Okay? Right. So now the bad behavior of not doing homework, you want to weaken it, but you are using negative punishment. So you are going to remove something from the learner, something that the learner likes. So that particular learner not doing homework likes working, sitting with his best friend. Sitting with his best friend. So as a punishment, you actually remove that his liking sitting with his best friend and get him to sit alone. Get him to sit alone. Removing the child from sitting with a friend. Something that he likes is removed as a negative punishment to weaken them. To weaken that bad learning. Is it clear or it's not clear? So why we use not only positive punishment, why do we have to use negative punishment? Positive punishment, you're giving something that child doesn't like. Maybe the child doesn't like to get scolded. You scold the child to weaken the bad learning of not doing homework. If it is positive negative punishment, you're removing something that the child likes as a punishment. not doing homework is the bad behavior, bad learning. And the child likes sitting with his best friend, but you remove it from the child and get him to sit alone as a punishment for not doing homework. Why always not only positive punishment? Why do we have to use both positive and negative punishment? Punishments are traumatizing. It is physical or mental abuse. It is physical or mental abuse. But if you can actually simplify it, make it kind of less threatening by introducing negative punishment, that is removing something that the child likes as a punishment. So you can actually use both the types in combination without actually punishments making a traumatic experience for the learner. So is it okay or it's not okay, the discussion?
Okay, madam.
Then we go to the next component. Yeah. Schedules or schedules of reinforcement. Schedules or schedules of reinforcement. For the purpose of using rewards and punishments effectively to promote learning. Okay. So we go to the next slide and look at schedules of reinforcement. Okay. Right. This is the slide. Give me 1 minute, okay? Purpose of using rewards and punishment to facilitate learning effectively. Schedules means when and where to use reinforcement. When and where to use reinforcement. Okay. So schedule of reinforcement. When and where to use reinforcement. So according to operant conditioning, there are two main types of reinforcements that you can use. Two types of reinforcement schedules that you can use. They are continuous reinforcement schedule, continuous reinforcement schedule, and intermittent reinforcement schedule. You can use continuous reinforcement schedule. You can use intermittent or partial reinforcement schedule. So if you take continuous reinforcement schedule, each and every time the good behavior occurs or performed, each and every time the good behavior occurs or performed, you are going to give them a reward. You are going to give them a reward. For example, the good habit of reading books. Each and every book the child reads, the child is entitled for a reward, a sticker or something. So each time the good behavior occurs, so continuous reinforcement, each and every time that the good behavior occurs, you are going to reinforce it. That is not practical. Because how on earth that you can actually reinforce, give rewards to the child each and every time and continue to do the same forever? It's not possible. Now, why do you or when do we use continuous reinforcement? That is for the establishment of the good behavior. At the initial stages of establishing good behavior, the teacher can use continuous reinforcement that each and every time the child performs the good behavior, the child is entitled for a reward. That at the initial stage of formulating the good behavior, establishing the good behavior. And then, as this is not practical, each and every time giving them a reward, once the good behavior is established, the teacher can move on to partial or intermittent reinforcement type. Partial or intermittent reinforcement schedule. When it comes to partial or intermittent reinforcement, we can identify, if not we have Skinner identified, four main types of partial reinforcement or intermittent reinforcement. What are they? They are divided into interval and ratio, and further divided into fixed and variable. So the four types of intermittent reinforcement is fixed, interval, intermittent reinforcement schedule, variable, interval, intermittent reinforcement schedule, fixed, ratio, intermittent reinforcement schedule, variable, ratio, reinforcement, intermittent reinforcement schedule. So these are the four types. That means once the good behavior is established, as it is not practical to reward the child each and every time, now the teacher has moved on to partial reinforcement schedules. There are four types: interval and ratio, and interval and ratio into four divisions, fixed and variable. So what they mean, if it is ratio, it refers to number of time. If it is duration, it refers to period of time, right? Period of time. Ratio, number of time. Interval, period of time. Now, what matters is whether it's fixed or variable. If it is fixed ratio, the teacher is going to reward the child, right? Every 10th book that the child reads. Every 10th book that the child reads. So child reads the 10 books, entitled for a reward. That is intermittent, not each and every time. Okay? It can be ratio also because 8 books. Right. Then, if it is variable interval, intermittent schedule, the number of times or the duration is not fixed. It varies. I will take the example of reading books. Now, initially, the students are not into the habit of reading. To establish the good habit of reading, the teacher decides to use continuous reinforcement schedule that each and every time that the child reads a book, the child is rewarded with a star or a ribbon or whatever. Once the good habit is established by the child, now the child is in the habit of reading, you can actually move on to partial reinforcement. So if you say fixed, interval, intermittent reinforcement schedule, It may be every Friday, every last Friday of the month. You're going to check their library card and the number of books that the child reads. Accordingly, that you actually give him a reward. If it is variable interval intermittent reinforcement schedule, you don't tell them it's every Friday or every last Friday or whatever, time to time. Time to time, it's not fixed. This time after 1 week, next time after 2 weeks, maybe. Time to time, you check their library cards. And if they have patronized the library, they're entitled for a reward. If it is ratio, it's the number of books that they read. If it is fixed, you tell them, right, for the 10th book you read, you are entitled for a ribbon. For the then another 10 books, 20th book that you read, you are entitled for a ribbon. It is actually fixed ratio. Have a variable ratio, you don't specify, right? And this time for reading 10 books, if you have completed reading 10 books, come and collect your ribbon. So next time you will tell them, if you have completed 15 books, come and collect your ribbon. Again, if you have completed 10 books, come and collect ribbon. That is actually variable ratio. Is it clear or it's not clear? Right. Then these components of reinforcement schedules are introduced to actually get you to use rewards effectively and efficiently without just actually giving them rewards or punishments, as learning happens through rewards and punishments in classical conditions. Any questions? Now suppose I'm actually working for the ETS campus, no, Apex campus on visiting basis, right? I'm a visiting person for the Apex campus. So the payment I receive, right, depends on the number of hours I cover. What is the type of reinforcement for me? The payment that I'm getting depends on the number of hours I cover. What is the type of reinforcement schedule? Hmm? Are you there?
Yes, madam.
Yeah, what's the type? No, not continuous. It's partial. What is the type of reinforcement there for me? It all depends on the number of hours. Number of hours, nang interval or ratio?
Ratio.
Ratio. Right. So this month I'm having 12 hours. Next month I'm having 16 hours. It is fixed or variable?
variable.
එහෙනම් ඒක variable in ratio intermittent reinforcement schedule. Now I'm working for Lincoln University full time. So at the end of the month 30th, I'm entitled for my salary, irrespective of the number of hours or anything that I do. So what kind of reinforcement schedule?
Fixed.
Sorry?
Fixed.
Fixed කියලා එකක් නෑනේ. Fixed what?
Internal.
Interval. Fixed interval intermittent reinforcement schedule. Right, very good. Then you know. Then classroom also, without just administering rewards just then and there as you feel. No. Make use of the rewards and punishment concept in a very effective manner by being scientific and considering the components of rewards and punishments as types of rewards and punishment and schedules of rewards and punishment, and make it very effective use of rewards and punishments to get them to learn. Got it or you didn't get that?
Madam.
Hmm?
Got
Got
it,
it?
madam.
Very good. Then we move on to now our discussion on behavioral learning theories are done. We discussed two, classical conditioning and operant conditioning. Right. Then we can discuss some other learning theories. Okay. For that, I will open a different one, a PowerPoint. Is it shared? The new
Not yet.
slides? Not yet. Okay. Right. Right. Now we are looking at some other learning theories. Vygotsky's socio-cultural theory of learning and Bandura's social learning theory. Vygotsky's socio-cultural theory of learning and Bandura's social learning theory. Okay. Now it's 8:30. I want to take a 5-minute break till 8:35. You also can actually, without leaving the meeting, can mute and go and have the glass of water and come back. It's 8:30. I will actually resume it at 8:35. Is it okay?
Okay,
Okay, ma'am.
All right. Hello? 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 Hello?
Madam,
Right, okay. I was talking to you right now only, Abhay. My mic was muted. Okay, now we will move on to some other learning theories, okay? And now it is Vygotsky's socio-cultural theory of learning we are going to look at. What's the name of the theory? Vygotsky's socio-cultural theory of learning. Can you see the slides shared? Learning to?
yes, madam.
Right, okay, dear. Now here, Lev Vygotsky is the name of the psychologist. Lev Vygotsky is the name of the psychologist. Lev Vygotsky talks about a learning theory which is termed as socio-cultural theory of learning. According to Lev Vygotsky, a great amount of learning happens in one's own culture. Great amount of learning is influenced by our own surrounding culture. We learn a lot from our culture, from our surrounding. Okay, now these pictures that you see on the slide, right, they speak volumes of it. Now in one picture, you can see a Catholic family saying prayers at the dinner table at the meal time. It's a Catholic practice. Then you know that children learn it from the family, the culture. It's a family culture, okay? And then you can see in another picture, there's a musical family. Father plays the instrument, mother dances with the child, and the child also learns it from that culture, okay? And in the third picture, it's a farming family. So the mother, father, and children, they all work in the farm. So then the child will learn this to love nature, to live a life close to nature, and he will actually learn how to rear animals, and he will be comfortable in living a life close to nature as he is exposed to that culture. So we learn a greater amount of our learning can be accommodated to this surrounding culture. So can you actually think of your own experiences where you have actually learned a lot of things from your surrounding culture? If you're born into a kind of a vegetarian family, so you will actually learn meals have to be flesh free, and how to actually eat um, uh, vegetarian food and prepare them and how to enjoy them like that. So a greater amount of our learning happens in our surrounding culture. So how this can be applied to classroom setup? How this can be applied to classroom setup? If we can learn from others, surrounding culture is that no, we learn from others. So how can it be applied to the classroom? To talk about this application of surrounding cultures, learning from surrounding cultures can be discussed by looking at these two terms. They are MKO. If it is not here, you can take it down here. MKO and ZPD. This can be discussed by looking at MKO and ZPD. Are you listening?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, madam.
So MKO refers to more knowledgeable other. MKO refers to more knowledgeable other. So we learn from more knowledgeable others. We learn from more knowledgeable others. The more knowledgeable other can be a parent. a coach, a teacher, a sibling, somebody younger to me. Now, actually, I belong to a different generation. But if you take my own children, my own daughter, she's she's an IT expert. She's very kind of comfortable with the use of ICT. But if you take me, though I'm a matured person, elder to her, my more knowledgeable other related to ICT matters may be my daughter. So that is the MKO, somebody who knows something better than us. We learn from them according to Vygotsky. In the classroom also, you can organize pair work, group work, and they will learn from each other. Because there can be some people, those who are good in expressing their ideas, some those who are good in actually drawing and presenting and all that. Some have a kind of a good knowledge of language. So when you put them to mix up in pair work and group work, there will be more knowledgeable others in varied the aspects of the task given. Right? Guidance from a knowledgeable person. And that knowledgeable person may be a younger one also. Right? That you're not an expert in playing the guitar, but there can be a junior who is an expert in playing the guitar. So when you actually work with him, you also learn from him anything. Then ZPD it stands for, now MKO stands for more knowledgeable other. More knowledgeable other, MKO. Then ZPD stands for zone of proximal development. Zone of proximal development. Zone of proximal development. ZPD, which means now if you get somebody to do something on their own, alone, individually, they can do only this much. Right? If you pair them up, group them, and get them to work with more knowledgeable other, with help, they can do this much, a bigger circle. So you want your students to learn green circle or more than that? That the difference between what they can do on their own and what they can do with the more knowledgeable other is the zone of proximal development. The difference, the gap between what they can do on their own and what they can do with the more knowledgeable other. That gap is the zone of proximal development. So the teacher should always get the learners to work with more knowledgeable others by organizing pair work, group work, and get them to explore the zone of proximal development, do more learning. That is what Vygotsky has said, because our environment, our culture facilitates our learning. We learn a lot from our surrounding, from others. So then when you actually apply that to classroom setup, you can actually organize pair work, group work for them to work with MKO, more knowledgeable other. And if you give that opportunity in the classroom to work with MKO, more knowledgeable other, they can actually explore the zone of proximal development, or ZPD. That is the gap between what they can do individually and what they can do with the help of more knowledgeable other. Clear or not clear?
Clear, madam.
Right, okay. Then we go to Bandura's social learning theory. Albert Bandura's social learning theory. It's another learning theory. Albert Bandura's social learning theory. According to Albert Bandura, we learn a greater amount of things, or our greater part of our learning happens through observation. by observing others. We have learned a lot of things, or we are learning a lot of things by observing others, which he terms as observational learning. So, according to social Bandura, also learning occurs within the social context. Within the social context. In our society, we observe a lot of things and we learn from that, which is termed as observational learning. Okay? Now, to formulate this theory, he did a repeated experiment. One is Bobo doll experiments. In that Bobo doll experiment, he actually did an experimental study. He put one class, one young learners into two sets. One is the control group, the other one is the experimental group. So for the control group, he did not do anything. For the experimental group, he actually showed cartoons, right, which has violence. He showed cartoons which have violence. So it is repeatedly shown. Then after some time, both the groups, the experiment group and the control group. Now the experimental group watched cartoons with violence. Control group did not see anything like that. And after some time, both the groups were given Bobo dolls. And the control group, they did not see violence now. So they started playing with the Bobo dolls and playing the mother and child role, and then singing lullabies, giving them baths and all that. But the experimental group, which was shown violence, this immediately started throwing them, breaking them into pieces, hitting them, and all that. So then Bandura actually finalized the fact, proved the fact that we learn through observation. That is why they observe violence. Now they are behaving violently towards the Bobo doll. They did not observe violence and they are actually playing and with the Bobo doll. Okay. Right. So that was the experiment done by Albert Bandura. To actually introduce this observational learning, we observe our society. There are models in the society to observe, and then we learn. And that kind of we learn through imitation. For us to imitate, there are models in the society. So this is the Bobo doll experiment. Okay. Then, according to Bandura, learning happens through observation. So he further talks about what we observe, they are the models. What we observe in society, they are the models. So learning through observation and modeling and imitation. We observe models and we imitate them and learn. Bandura identifies in his theory three main types of models available in the society. The three main types of models are live model, verbal instructional model, and the symbolic model. Live model, verbal instructional model, and symbolic model. If you take the live model, it involves actual individuals demonstrating or acting out a behavior. Now, for example, at home, your mother is very kind. She is a live model. By observing the mother's kindness, you also become very kind. Similarly, you observe a very aggressive father. You observe it and he's a live model and you learn these qualities. right? Because learning is not only knowledge, skills, attitudes, behaviors, etc. If you take the verbal instructional model, this model involves descriptions and explanations of a behavior. Mother says, Puta, you don't have to waste food. Puta, you have to work hard and study. They're all verbal instructions. That is another model that actually we imitate it and then learn it. They are verbal instructional. Then the symbolic model. Symbolic models involves real or fictional characters displaying behaviors in books, films, televisions, and online media. Sometimes we observe them and we imitate them. Symbolic models. Maybe that you all are young and you all are following fashion, right? So these fashions that you're following on Instagram, you observe them and accordingly that you learn how to do your fashion. They are symbolic models. But if you look at classroom context, how this is applied in classroom context, a live model, the teacher herself is a live model. Teacher is punctual, students learn to be punctual. Teacher is kind, students learn to be kind, right? Some other student can be a live model. Okay, very neat and clean, shows a lot of leadership. You observe it and you learn those qualities. Verbal instructional modeling class, maybe every morning teacher gives advices. On daily basis, you receive advices in school. That is verbal instruction. And a symbolic model maybe that you learn about bravery through Madhuma Bandara's history. Bye වෙන්න එපා මෑණියනි මැරෙන හැටි මම පෙන්නන්නම්. So if you follow it, it's a live model. If you follow it, it's a live model. Sorry, it's a symbolic model. I'm sorry, okay. It's a symbolic model. So according to Bandura, if you want to apply this observational learning in the institution or the school context, you have to make sure these type of models are available. You have to make sure these types of models are available in the school, right? But according to Albert Bandura, just because that we observe something, it doesn't mean that we all learn it. Because we learn lots of observation, we observe a lot of characters, lot of behaviors on everyday basis, but it doesn't mean that we all imitate and learn it. For this observational learning to be complete, right, to happen, it should undergo 4 stages. It should undergo 4 stages. The 4 stages are attention, retention, reproduction, and motivation. Attention, retention, reproduction, and motivation. If you take attention, now there are lots of models, but we might not pay attention. Then we will not be observing and learning it. Now, in the school context, there can be a student who is very neat, who is very kind, who is very helpful. And other students may not pay attention to it. You can make it a live model if you actually praise that good child. You're very neat in your work. See his book. It's very nice. You praise it, that particular child, and then others pay attention to this child's behavior. Otherwise, they may not pay attention. It will not be a live model. So it's teachers' duty to transform it into a live model in the classroom and get the students to pay attention. And retention. Now the students observe the good child, how he works, and if you want to actually learn it through observation, you should retain how to do it. You should remember how to do it. Okay? You should remember that I should work nicely and neatly. If you see that, pay attention today and tomorrow it's forgotten. There will not be observational learning. So for time to time, the teacher can actually get them to pay attention to the good behavior, the model, whether it's live or verbal or whatever. And then the students will remember it. And then the reproduction. So the students should have the capacity to reproduce that behavior. For example, there is a child in the class. He comes to school every day, right? He comes to school every day. So the teacher makes the child the live model by praising the child. So others pay attention to this good behavior of coming on regular basis. Then time to time it is done, the students remember this, that we also should come to school every day as so and so does and all that. But reproduction is not possible. The child doesn't have the capacity to come to school every day. Why? Mother is sick, father is sick, and this particular child only cooks for the family. So even though the child has gone through attention and retention, reproduction is not possible, not capable. Then there will not be observational learning. And the last is the motivation. People must be motivated to imitate behavior. Okay? Then all these stages are completed. We actually can learn through observational learning. So teachers' duty is to actually get the different types of models available and then get the other students to pay attention and time to rhyme to retain it and then reproduce that if possible and to be motivated to. Then only this learning, social learning theory is. Social learning would happen. Okay, okay. Are you listening? Are you listening? Or I could just go on talking to an empty class. Hello? Right. Is it clear to you? Right.
Madam.
Yeah.
Yes, madam.
Okay, good. Now, we have another theory that is actually cognitive learning theory. Learning happens through the internal mental capacities of sensation, perception, memory, and problem solving, and blah, 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 what we discuss in Unit 3. We will be discussing it next day because we have only another half an hour. Till what time that we have to go to? 9:30 now. So half an hour, yes. So half an hour is not enough to discuss that. So because of that, let me give a second. Right. Now, what are the 4 learning theories we discussed? What are the 4 learning theories we discussed? Can't remember.
Attention, retention, reproduction,
My
and
question is different. They are the stages of observational learning by Bandura. My question is, what are the 4 learning theories we have discussed so far?
classical conditioning.
Yeah.
Operant conditioning.
Yeah.
Schedules of reinforcement.
The 8 theory schedules of reinforcement is a part of operant conditioning theory. Vygotsky's socio-cultural learning theory. and Bandura's social learning theory. Those are the 4 learning theories we discussed, right? Yes or no? Yes or no?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, okay. Right then. Look at this. Some questions. Actually, these type of questions will not be there in your paper. But these are the main parts of the discussion. They're signposting questions. So if you know the answers for this, you will be able to answer an essay question. Okay? Otherwise, this type of questions are not there in the paper. First one, define the term learning. Who can do that? Please. Define the term learning.
Learning is a permanent change in behavior brought about experience.
Right, okay. It's actually acquiring knowledge, skills, attitudes, and behaviors. Am I right? Yeah. Then Woolfolk talks about 4 knots. Can you remember that definition? Can you remember?
This is
The
my
4
first
knots?
class.
Right. The 4 knots are, you can listen to the recording. Learning is not always intentional. Learning is not always right things. Learning is not always knowledge. We learn skills and attitudes. Learning does not happen only in the classroom. 4 knots for the better understanding of what learning is about. Okay. Name 2 behavioral theories of learning. Can you answer? Name 2 behavioral learning theories. මට එපා වෙන ඔයගොල්ලෝ ආන්සර් කරේ නැත්තම්. Name 2 behavioral learning theories you have learned. In today's discussion also I revise.
Classical conditioning theory,
Huh?
operant conditioning theory,
Very good. They are the 2 behavioral learning theories. The other 2 are not behavioral learning theories. They're socio-cultural learning theories. Okay. Learning happens to one's culture and society. Then, what do the following, number 3 in the question sheet, what do the following acronyms stand for and what are they in Pavlov's experiment? What do the following acronyms stand for and what are they in Pavlov's experiment? UCS? UCS?
Unconditional stimulus.
Unconditioned stimulus. What is it in the Pavlov's experiment? What is it in the Pavlov's? Unconditioned stimulus එක මොකද්ද Pavlovගේ experiment එකේ?
Dogs experiment. Dogs.
A dog's experiment එකේ unconditioned stimulus එක මොකක්ද? Naturally occurring stimulus එක the food platter. කොච්චර කතා කරාද ඔය ගැන? Food platter. The UCR stands for unconditioned response. The unconditioned response in the Pavlov's experiment is dog salivation for the food platter. Then NS stands for neutral stimulus. That is the bell, no salivation. CS stands for conditioned stimulus. That is the bell sound. Conditioned response stands for, CR stands for conditioned response. That is salivating to the sound of the bell. Okay, new learning. Now look at this. Arun shows no interest in mathematics, but he likes being in group A. How can you apply the notion of classical conditioning to bring about new learning or behavior? In what are they the following? In that, what are the following? Case study. Unconditioned stimulus එක මොකද්ද? Unconditioned response එක මොකද්ද? Neutral stimulus එක මොකද්ද? Conditioned stimulus එක වල conditioned response එක මොකද්ද? බලමු try කරන්න.
No cool. Don't ask me cool.
Can you actually do this? Very simple.
Madam, for unconditional stimulus, can't we take no interest in mathematics?
No, unconditional
We-
stimulus කියලා කියන්නේ naturally occurring stimulus එක අර food එක වගේ. එතකොට ඒක no interest in mathematics නෙමෙයි. Naturally යා කැමතිද?
Yes.
Unconditional stimulus is the group A. Am I right? Am I right?
Yes.
Student ගේ naturally තියෙන කැමැත්ත තමයි group A කියන එක. එහෙනම් unconditional stimulus is group A. What is unconditional response? Arun's liking to be in the group A. Neutral stimulus එක මොකක්ද? No interest in mathematics. Mathematics is the neutral stimulus. Conditioned stimulus එක තමයි mathematics, because after pairing mathematics with group A for some time, now even in the absence of group A, the child likes doing mathematics. So conditioned stimulus is the previously neutral stimulus, that is mathematics. So conditioned response is the student liking to learn mathematics. And I am disappointed, okay? Why you don't understand what we are discussing? Huh? Why do you go wrong or you are not responding? Is it difficult for you? What I tell you to understand? Please respond. Right. Then you are coming to the next. Number 5. What term is given to the finding that a response is reduced if it is no longer strengthened? What term is given to the finding that a response is reduced if it is no longer strengthened? If not the gradual decrease of the conditioned stimulus. What is the term given? The gradual decrease and disappearance of the conditioned stimulus. What is the term given? Extinction. What term is applied to? Okay, number 7. How does learning take place according to operant conditioning? How does learning take place according to operant conditioning?
Through
How
rewards
does learning-
and
Very good. Through rewards and punishments. You're correct. Number 8. What are the components of operant conditioning?
Positive reinforcement, negative reinforcement, positive punishments, and negative punishments.
That is one component. There's another component. What is it? Schedules of reinforcement. So the two components are types of rewards and punishments, namely positive reinforcement, negative reinforcement, positive punishment, negative punishment. The other component is schedules of reinforcement, namely continuous reinforcement, partial intermittent reinforcement, variable, fixed. Next part. I'm very sad that you are actually not properly responding. Underline the correct answer. What is positive reinforcement? Out of A, B, C, D, can you give me the answer? What is positive reinforcement?
Second one, madam.
Yeah.
Second one.
Huh? Yeah. A, the B, the C, the D, the dear. Yeah. D. You're correct. Because it is reinforcement. Emanang positive nang you have to give something that the student likes. So it is D. Very good. Then we go to now. The sentence. I strengthening the good behavior, and punishments are applied in weakening the bad behaviors. Okay. Hello. Hello.
Yes, ma'am.
Now you have to actually answer. Otherwise, it is difficult for me. No, it's very impolite if you keep quiet. So I'm asking this question. Two broad types of schedules of reinforcement. අපි අද කතා කරේ.
A,
What is
madam.
A or B or
answer.
C or D?
A, madam.
Very good. A answer is A. A is the answer, continuous and intermittent. Okay. Number 11. If we reinforce the desired response every time it occurs, we are using. If we reinforce the desired response every time it occurs, we are using.
It's also first one, A, madam.
What is it? I didn't get you. A. Okay. According to the behaviorist school, plays the role in learning. Experience, environment, nature, punishment. According to the behaviorist school, plays the role in learning. Experience, environment, nature, punishment. Plays no role in learning. Nature. Nature කියන්නේ අපේ inheritance කියන එක. ඒගොල්ලෝ inheritance බලාගෙන නෙවෙයි කතා කරන්නේ. Giving a student extra homework after they misbehave in class is an example of giving a student extra homework after they behaving in class is an example
Answer
of.
D, ma'am. Answer D.
නෑ.
Also,
බලන්න giving a
positive
student extra homework after they misbehave.
Negative
So misbehave කියන්නේ good behavior ද bad behavior ද? Negative punishment උත් නෙමෙයි. මේක punishment වෙන්න ඕනේ. මොකද මේක misbehavior එකක්. ඒක නිසා reinforcement එකක් වෙන්න බෑ. එහෙමනම් punishment. Punishment තියෙන්නේ A or B.
A.
එතකොට දෙනවා නම් යමක් ඒක positive ද negative ද? Positive.
Positive, ma'am.
Right? Yeah, it's A. Then number 14. Schedules of reinforcement are based on number of responses, while schedules of reinforcement are based on elapsed time. මුලින්ම එන්න ඕනේ interval schedules of reinforcement. And then while ratio. එහෙනම් මේකට එන්න ඕනේ මුලින්ම interval ඊළඟට ratio answer C. Write a classroom example of a negative punishment. I think you can give me a classroom example of a negative punishment. මුලින්ම හිතන්න ඕනේ punishment නම් there should be bad behavior. එහෙනම් මුලින්ම bad behavior එකක් හිතන්න ඕනේ punishment කිව්ව ගම. මොකද bad behavior එක? ඔයගොල්ලෝ හිතන. Shouting in the class. It's a bad behavior. එහෙනම් it should be weakened. හරි? එහෙනම් negative නම් you have to give something. You have to remove something from the child. එහෙනම් ළමයි කැමති එකක් දායින් කරන්න ඕනේ අකමැති එකක් දායින් කරන්න ඕනේ as a punishment. කැමති එකක්. එහෙනම් කියන්න පුළුවන් for shouting in the class. අන්න misbehavior එක. Negative is a removing, right? As a punishment for shouting in the class, the teacher removes their interval time. Teacher removes their interval time. So they like the interval time, it's removed. So it's a negative punishment. Teacher can ask, you shouted, today you are not allowed to actually go to the grounds during the interval. That is a negative punishment. It's less threatening than positive punishment, giving some form of physical or psychological or emotional punishment. It is less threatening. Okay. Now, next day we have one more theory from learning, that is Gagne's information processing theory and the 9 events of instruction. I will need about 45 minutes for the discussion. Then with that, we can actually finish the topic learning. Once we are done with learning, next week itself, we can start motivation as another big topic. Okay? That is the lineup. And make sure that everyone joins the class and be very interactive. Only very few respond. The others just keep quiet like you're angry with me. And majority, I think, is not connected also today. It's only 16 I saw in the class. No, 18 in the class. But that is not the way, right? Even though you're busy, I know you need to actually join online lectures. Then only that you will understand psychology. It's not easy without explanation to understand psychology only by reading. Got it? So before we stop, any questions? Before we stop, any questions?
Excuse me, ma'am. This is my first class. How to get these notes, ma'am? How to get from
What's your name, dear?
Mafaza?
Yeah, Mafasa. Actually, I'm only visiting. Okay. Apex campus. So you have to talk to the coordinator. I think you have an LMS. Am I right?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
And the lecture notes and the recordings are available there. So you can connect with your friends. They will help you. And you can always speak to the coordinator because I'm actually clueless about what's happening inside the campus as I'm only a visiting lecturer for Apex.
Okay,
Okay?
ma'am. Okay, ma'am.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Mafasa. I think Mafasa, have you not been actually added to a WhatsApp group or something?
I have, ma'am, in WhatsApp group.
Yeah. You can communicate through the WhatsApp group. Ask others to actually clarify what's happening, where to find notes, and all that, and make it a nice experience.
Okay, ma'am.
Okay. Right. I think with that we can stop the meeting. It's 9:22, 8 minutes more, but we have covered the theories. There's no time to start a new topic. So can I end the meeting? Okay. Then see you next week. Good night. Thank you.
Good night, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.
Okay.
Good night.
Okay.